ॐ दक्षिणस्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरुः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. You all must have observed in the last 3 years that we have been taking these classes or these sessions on Wednesdays. Every session of ours starts with Dakshinasya Samarambha Shankaracharya Madhyama Asmadacharya Paryanta Smarya Guru Parampara. The same thing is told or the same thing is chanted with a little difference in almost all the Vedanta classes. Whenever Vedanta is taught, wherever Vedanta is taught, the Guru and the Shishya together chant this similar one, shloka or this kind of dhyanam where Sri Dakshinamurti is remembered. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. The same thing which we are also chanting in the beginning of any session, we are chanting this. Now, Vande Guru Paramparam, this Guru Paramparam I surrender to, I revere, I fall at the feet of, I do namaskara to this Guru Parampara. And where has it started? This Guru Parampara has started from none other than the Adi Guru, who is considered to be Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurti is considered to be the Adi Guru, from where this traditional teaching of Vedanta started. And then it is said that all the others, the other gurus whom I come across in this entire parampara are all links in this parampara. So I remember 3 important links. Sadashiva or Dakshina Samarambha or Sadashiva Samarambha. That knowledge or that tradition of teaching which started from Adi Guru Dakshinamurti. Adi Guru, or we can say Anadi Guru also. A guru who did not have any guru earlier, the very first guru in the sense, I mean, our usual way is to think of everything in a wholesome manner. So Adi Guru is the one who did not have a guru for himself. So that means what? Ishvara himself or Paramatma himself or Brahman itself manifested in the form of a guru to start this tradition of teaching Vedanta, the traditional teaching of Vedanta. And therefore, this guru, the one who really started this from where it started, Sadashiva or Dakshinamurti. Then we remember Shankaracharya somewhere in the middle, another very strong link which connects various acharyas between the Adi Guru Dakshinamurti, and then the third one, the third level I remember is Asmat Guru, Asmat Guru Paryantam, my Guru Paryantam, Vande Guru Paramparam. That is starting from Dakshinamurti, Bhagwan Dakshinamurti, going through the able hands of acharyas like Adi Shankaracharya, Asmadacharya Paryantam, till my Guru, I am the Shishya and till my Guru, I value and I surrender to this Guru Parampara who has given me this traditional teaching of Vedanta without any kind of gaps. I have received it in a very, very sampradayic way or in a manner in which it was given exactly to my Guru by his Guru, and so on and so on and so on. And it goes up till the Adi Guru, that is Bhagwan Dakshinamurti. And therefore, we find that this particular work that we are going to take from this session onwards for a period of next 4 or 5 sessions is Dakshinamurti Stotram. Dakshinamurti Stotram is considered to be one of the crest jewels of Advaita Vedanta Stotras. It is an Advaita Vedanta Stotra, but it is considered to be nothing but the purest and the pristine Vedantic teaching of our Upanishads. The absolute central core of our Vedantic teachings. It is considered to be this Dakshinamurti Stotram. And of course, Dakshinamurti Stotram is a very, very subtle and a very, very deep work. And it is something which talks about all aspects of Vedantic teaching. And generally, Dakshinamurti Stotram is taught after the Shishya has studied a few Upanishads. Because ultimately, the Dakshinamurti Stotram is the saram of all the Upanishads. It gives the central and the core teachings of all the Upanishads. And therefore, it is always expected that the listener or the Shishya will get the full benefit of Dakshinamurti Stotram if he or she has already gone through at least a few Upanishads. Then you may ask me, why are we taking up this work? Because we have studied Viveka Chudamani, in which we have studied almost the entire Vedantic teaching as given by Adi Shankaracharya himself. We have studied the Kathopanishad also, though an entry level, an Upanishad which is taken initially in the first 2 or 3 Upanishads taken for an Upanishadic student. What we have studied in the Kathopanishad is sufficient enough for us to understand the important Vedantic truths or the central teaching of Vedanta that comes in most of the Upanishads. This exposure to the Upanishad is already there for us in the form of Kathopanishad. We have already studied the Bhagavad Gita, we have already studied the Viveka Chudamani, and in the last few sessions, we have already studied quite a few Advaita Parastotras of Adi Shankaracharya himself. And therefore, when we talk about or when we are dealing with the Advaita Stotras of Adi Shankaracharya, it is not possible for us to leave Dakshinamurti Stotram. And though it is a difficult work, though it is a very, very subtle work, it can be interpreted at a easier level also. And I hope and pray that with the blessings of our Guru Parampara and all my Gurus, I will be able to communicate this Dakshinamurti Stotram to the best of my ability so that most of us can grasp at least the basic meaning of most of these terms or most of the whatever has been told, so that Dakshinamurti Stotram can initiate in all of us an interest to study more and more Upanishads. Therefore, Dakshinamurti Stotram can be taken as a crest jewel in the teaching of Vedanta. Now, What is this work called Dakshinamurti Stotram? Who is the author of this text? And how has it been commented upon? What is the importance of Dakshinamurti Stotram for a Vedanta student? Let us briefly go through all these things because it is very essential initially to understand why we are studying the Dakshinamurti Stotram. As already explained, Dakshinamurti Stotram is widely considered to be a work of Adi Shankaracharya Acharya. Adi Shankaracharya. Of course, there are many scholars who say that it's not a work of Adi Shankaracharya, but it doesn't matter to us. We accept, like many of the other scholars, that Dakshinamurti Stotram is a work by Adi Shankaracharya. Adi Shankaracharya has written, in beautiful verses, which are about 10 verses totally, in which the entire core teaching of Vedanta, whatever it may be, has been communicated. And of course, there are commentaries written on Dakshinamurti Stotram. The most important of the commentaries or bhashya is Vartika. It's called as a Vartika, written on Dakshinamurti Stotram, is by none other than the Vartikakara Sureshwaracharya, who is Adi Shankaracharya's one of the four best shishyas of Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya. And he has written a commentary called as a Vartika of about 150 verses on Dakshinamurti Stotram by the name Manasollasa. Manasollasa is the work done by him. Then there are some other works written by other acharyas also. We don't have to worry about it. And then this Dakshinamurti Stotram has 10 verses in the core teaching of Vedanta, but it has got about 6 to 7 dhyana shlokas and introductory shlokas written by other acharyas. The dhyana shlokas, the introductory shlokas, which we are going to see, are not a part of the Dakshinamurti Stotram. They are the verses or the shlokas which are added by other people like Sureshwaracharya. Some of them have been taken from Acharya Sureshwaracharya's Manasollasa also. So the first three verses and a few other dhyana shlokas are meant for the upasana or meant like we do any other dhyana shlokas. Like in Bhagavad Gita, we have already seen that the dhyana shlokas that we studied or chanted in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita are not really a part of Bhagavad Gita. These dhyana shlokas were added later by an acharya called Madhusudana Saraswati. We have seen that. Similarly, Dakshinamurti Stotram also has initial about 6 verses, the dhyana shlokas or the introductory shlokas, which introduce us to the work, and actual work of Dakshinamurti starts a little later. And as students of Vedanta, to invoke the grace of Lord Dakshinamurti, it is very necessary for us to even study these dhyana shlokas. Now, this Dakshinamurti Stotram is not only a stotra, but it is considered to be a Prakarana Vedanta Grantha or a Vedanta Prakarana Grantha. Just like we saw Viveka Chudamani, like Tattva Bodha, or any other Prakarana Grantha, Dakshinamurti Stotram, though it is a very small stotra containing only, actually, in actuality, only 10 verses, but this whole work of such a small work is considered to be a Vedantic Prakarana Grantha. In its entirety, it is considered to be a Vedanta Prakarana Grantha. And the importance that is given to this Dakshinamurti Stotram is that I remember my Vedanta Guru telling us, after completing every Upanishad, you should study Dakshinamurti Stotram again, because it opens up so many things which we would not have thought of or done mananam on earlier. With the study of every new Upanishad, every time Dakshinamurti Stotram is studied, the Madanam becomes deeper, the understanding becomes deeper, Nididhyasana and understanding becomes deeper. Therefore, Dakshinamurti Stotram is a proud grantha, prauda grantha. It's a prouda grantha, means it is a very, very serious and a scholarly work which is considered as a prakarana grantha. And it is considered to be very sacred. How it is considered to be sacred? That before the Acharya in the typical Vedantic schools, in the schools of Vedanta or Vedanta centers where Vedanta teaching is going on, before Brahma Sutra teaching is started, before Brahma Sutra teaching is started, what is done is at the beginning of every class, the Dakshinamurti Stotram is chanted. And at the end of the class, at least one shloka from the Dakshinamurti Stotram is chanted. I have seen this in the Gurukulam. The entire Dakshinamurti Stotram is chanted, after which the Brahma Sutra class begins. And at the end of the session or class, again the Dakshinamurti, either in full or at least one verse every day after the class is chanted. And with every verse, there is a namaskara offered to Lord Dakshinamurti, asking for the grace of this Dakshinamurti to give my buddhi the capacity to absorb what is being taught in the bhashya. This is the importance of Dakshinamurti Stotram. It is nothing but a very, very proud, means it is a very, very detailed, a subtle and a very deep Vedanta Prakarana Grantha. Maybe it is a small Grantha, but it is a very, very deep Vedanta Grantha. It is a Prakarana Grantha and it has to be understood very clearly, where we have really understood what exactly is the saram of all the Upanishads that are taught to us. Then, if this is only a Prakarana Grantha, in that case, why is it called a Stotra? Because Dakshinamurti Stotram can be used for Upasana, for worship of Dakshinamurti as Jnana Pradata, as a one who gives me Prajna and Medha and Prajna, knowledge and the capacity to understand, retain, and recall this knowledge, the capacity to internalize this knowledge. And therefore, as Upasana also, Dakshinamurti is worshipped. And therefore, here the Dhyana shlokas and other shlokas are chanted even without knowing the meaning. They can be chanted as a form of offering a prayer or as a upasana. Now we should know what is the meaning. What is the meaning of Dakshina Murti? Murti means a form, an akara, a form. Murti means a form. A form which is facing Dakshina. Dakshina Abhimukha. That means the one, a form which is facing the south and giving this particular knowledge. Dakshina Murti. What is the knowledge that Dakshinamurti is giving? It is said that Brahmaji, that is Lord Brahma's Manasaputras, Sanakadi Manasaputras of Brahmaji, and Narada and many other rishis actually went to Dakshinamurti to get this knowledge. It is the story says that when Lord Brahma wanted to populate this whole universe, this Jagat, the first four were his Manasaputras, which were born Sanakadi, Sanat Kumaradi, Sanakadi, there are four of them. At that time, when they were born, immediately they chose the Nivritti Margam and wanted to get this knowledge and approached Dakshinamurti for this knowledge. And who is Dakshinamurti? nothing but the manifestation of Lord Shiva. Dakshinamurti is a manifest form, one of the forms of Lord Shiva, who is, this form is particularly dedicated to the beginning and teaching the, the tradition of Vedanta. The tradition of Vedantic teaching, that is the purpose of this particular Akara, Dakshinamurti. It is nothing but a form of Lord Shiva. That is why Dakshinamurti is considered to be the Adi Guru. And of course, the Vaishnavas, the same thing is Lord Vishnu is considered to be the Adi Guru in the form of Lord Hayagriva. Both the systems talk about the Adi Guru. And here we are talking about Dakshinamurti as the very Adi Guru, who is nothing but the manifestation of the same Brahman Ishvara. When Ishvara manifests in a form that is involved in the creation of this universe, that particular form is called as Chaturmukha Brahma. When the same Ishvara Brahman manifests in a form which is supposed to be the Sthitikaraka of this entire universe, we call it as Vishnu. And when the same Ishvara takes a form for Laya or Samhara, that particular form is called as Shiva. So the Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the three trinities which we accept in our culture, in our scriptures, is nothing but the manifestations of the same Lord or the same Ishvara for various kind of activities. And what is Lord Shiva's function in this Trinity? Lord Shiva's function is nothing but to resolve the universe once it has finished whatever lifetime that this particular creation has to go through. And that universe is resolved back into Brahman to go back into a potential form which is called as resolution or samhara. It's not destruction. Sometimes very loosely we say it is destroyed by Shiva. It is not destroyed. It is actually resolved or it is taken back into an potential or unmanifest form from a manifest form. So, Bhagwan Shiva actually has the function of resolution or as the Layakaraka of this entire universe. But the same Lord Shiva manifests in the form of Adi Guru Dakshinamurti for ending the Ajnanam, for the Ajnana Laya, whatever is our ajnanam, because of which the jiva comes back again and again and again into the cycles of birth and death. We have already seen in all these Advaita Sutras and also in all the granthas that we have studied. Now, the same Lord Shiva, who is the resolver or the one who resolves the entire manifest universe into an unmanifest form, the same Lord Shiva takes up a form as the Adi Guru and completely and once for all destroys the ajnanam of a jiva in the form of this teaching, in the form of this knowledge. By giving this jnanam, what jnanam? Brahma jnanam or Atma jnanam, Dakshinamurti, Lord Shiva as Dakshinamurti, once and for all, completely destroys this ajnanam in the jiva, which is responsible for making the jiva come back again and again and again into the cycles of birth and death. Therefore, Dakshinamurti is nothing but a manifestation of Lord Shiva. And this manifestation, this form, as the Guru, is facing the south, Dakshinabhimukha. That means he is facing south. Why is this Guru facing the south? What is the reason for Guru facing the south? Now, it is said, that is what my gurus have told me, that the south The direction of the south is considered to be the direction of Lord Yama or the direction of death. The southern direction is considered to be the direction of Lord Yama or death. And Dakshinamurti is literally facing the direction of Yama, giving a symbolism that Dakshinamurti as Adi Guru is beginning a tradition of Brahma Vidya which completely dissolves this ignorance and loses this knowledge, makes one lose the fear of death. It is said, we have already seen it in Kathopanishad and in the other works, that a person of this knowledge becomes immortal. He loses the fear of death. Immortal means what? I, as the Atma Swarupa, I was never born, I never died, I have always been immortal. What is immortal is the incidental anatma. When I understand this knowledge, which we have already seen in several texts, here it is said that it is this knowledge alone which can destroy the fear of death. It is this Atmajnana Nishtha or abiding in the Atmajnanam alone that can completely conquer death. That means what? Coming back again and again into the cycles of birth and death is once for all over. This is the significance and symbolism of Lord Dakshinamurti facing the south as a conqueror, Mrityunjaya, as a conqueror of death. What is the meaning of conqueror of death? As long as the body is there, body cannot avoid death. As long as I consider myself as the jiva, I cannot avoid coming at the beginning of creation and going into an unmanifest form at the end of the creation again. That I cannot avoid. But then, what is the meaning of crossing over a death? Okay, it means that I realize that I am already the immortal, unborn, undying Atma Ahamasmi iti I understand. In that way, I have won over death. I have understood that death is a mere one of the Shad Vikaras. It is not there for the Atma. I, the real I, my Swarupam, I, the Atma, is Najayate Namriyate. I am the birthless and the deathless consciousness. And when I abide in this Atma Swarupa of mine, there's no question of fear of death. There's no question of my becoming mortal and coming back again and again. This is the significance of Lord Dakshinamurti facing the south, and therefore he is called as Dakshinamurti. That is a form or a manifestation of Shiva which is facing the south and giving this knowledge. And who are the people who are listening to this knowledge? The people who are listening to this knowledge are very, very great rishis. Very, very great rishis are listening to this knowledge because our Dakshinamurti is the Adi Guru, and therefore all the people who are listening are none other than the Manasa Putras of Lord Brahma and very, very great rishis. Then there is another meaning for this name called as Dakshinamurti. Another reason why Lord Dakshinamurti is called as Dakshinamurti. If you split the word Dakshina Murti, it becomes Dakshina Amurti. Dakshina Amurti. This was also what was taught to me by my gurus. Dakshina Amurti. What is the meaning of Dakshina here? Here, Dakshina has many meanings. Dakshina has also many meanings. South is one meaning. There are many other meanings for Dakshina. Dakshina also means a person who is adept, a person who has got the samarthyam, a person who has the capacity, Dakshina. And in reality, he is a Murti, his Atma Swarupa only. This Dakshina Murti is the same Atma Swarupa, the Shiva Tattva itself, Atma Swarupa, without a form. It is Arupa Ishvara. that is Nirguna Ishvara, manifesting as Adi Guru Dakshinamurti, giving this particular knowledge, the tradition of this knowledge, which is started from there. And in reality, Dakshinamurti is Amurti. Dakshinamurti is Nirvikara and he does not have any kind of name and form. Nama Rupa Rahita consciousness is Dakshinamurti. But adept at the one who has samarthyam of communicating this knowledge. That is why Dakshinamurti is also called as Dakshina Amurti. So if we know these two significances of the name, that is enough. There are some other works which give some other names which we don't have to worry. One is that manifestation of Lord Shiva facing the south, which indicates a knowledge which is given by this form, which totally overcomes death. So Dakshinamurti or Dakshina Amurti, in reality, the formless consciousness, which is as Adi Guru, able to communicate with all the capacity and samarthyam, able to communicate whatever Vedanta or Vedas have brought in and communicating. And this Adi Guru is making even these very, very well known senior rishis to understand this particular knowledge. This is the meaning of Dakshinamurti. And then we have to understand that if that is so, we also find, you may find that why am I talking about all these things? Because if we know these things, it makes the study of Dakshinamurti Stotram much more meaningful because we have got the basic idea of what is the meaning of Dakshinamurti, who has written it, how it has come about, what is the importance of this text. And if it is a pure Prakarana Grantha, why is it in a stotra form? I said it is in a stotra form because even without going into the Atmajnana, the mere chanting of the stotra is sufficient enough for a sadhaka to get the grace of Lord Dakshinamurti, to get the grace of Lord Dakshinamurti. That is why, for the sake of the purposes of Upasana, Lord Dakshinamurti, though he is in reality Arupa Atma Chaitanya, Nirguna Atma Chaitanya, has been represented in various forms. Pictorially also, we have pictures of Dakshinamurti in various forms, represented in various forms. We have got small sculptures like I have seen it in somebody's house, that Vatabriksha and Dakshinamurti sitting under that. And so there are small miniature sculptures also where Dakshinamurti is represented in a certain way. And of course, we have Dakshinamurti represented in as murtis in different temples for the sake of worship. Most of the Vedanta teaching centers have Dakshinamurti in their premises as the temple deity. The deity of the ashram, the teaching, Vedanta teaching ashram, the deity is generally Dakshinamurti. Because with the blessings of Dakshinamurti himself or itself or herself, you can say it in any form, that this tradition of Vedantic teaching has begun. So let us see just for an example as to in various forms Dakshinamurti is pictorially also represented. I'm sure we have all seen on the books, on the covers of the books, Dakshinamurti. On calendars we have seen. In our own homes we have seen photographs of Lord Dakshinamurti. And how is Lord Dakshinamurti represented? Of course, we see him sitting under a Vatavriksha, under a banyan tree, a huge banyan tree he's sitting. Sitting under the banyan tree means he's sitting on the floor below a huge spread of a banyan tree. And then we see that there are a lot of old looking, aged shishas sitting around him, surrounding him, and looking towards him for this knowledge. And how is Lord Dakshinamurti himself represented in these pictures and in these small miniature sculptures or in temples, murtis? How is Lord Dakshinamurti represented? He represented that Dakshinamurti has a jata, and then he has four arms, Dakshinamurti, four arms. And then Dakshinamurti is sitting on a Vyaghra Charma, Shardhula Charma, or a Simha Charma, sitting on the skin of a tiger or a lion. And the asana or the pose or the posture in which Lord Dakshinamurti is sitting is uniformly shown in most of the pictures, where the left leg is kept over that seat wherever he's sitting, and the right leg is hanging down. This is what is called as a Virasana. Vira Asana. The left leg is folded up and the right leg is kept down. Now, what are the things that this Dakshinamurti Vigraha or whatever it is we see, what all are there representing? The picture of Dakshinamurti represents actually the five elements. The five elements Akasha, Vayuhu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi, it represents in that whole picture. How does it represent? The right upper limb, there are two upper limbs, there are two arms. The upper arm on the right side has got the Damaru. The Damaru indicates Nada. Damaru indicates sound. And what is sound? It is an attribute of space. So the upper right arm of Dakshinamurti having the Damaru, this is a typical picture. What I'm There are other pictures which are showing different things, holding different things. But this is a typical picture where the Damaru is held, which indicates the Akasha Tattva or Akasha as the one of the elements which is talked about it. Then Vayuhu, his jata is there flowing down like this, and it is held tightly by a kirita, Vayu Tattva. Okay, the Panchamahabhutas Vayu is talked about in that form. Akasha Vayuhu Agni. In the left side, on the left side, the upper arm on the left side, we see the flames of Agni. Again, it indicates the third Panchamahabhuta Agni. Some people, interpret it in a different way. They say this Damaru indicates Nada, and that the fire principle on the left side, which you see flames of fire, represent a flame of knowledge, but it represents the five elements. Akasha is over, Vayu, then Agni, the upper left upper arm. Then there is Ganga flowing in the jata of Dakshinamurti, the water principle. Then the Prithvi principle is the entire body of Dakshinamurti that is seen is the Prithvi principle. Then what else does he have in the other two arms, the lower arms? The right lower arm is showing the Chin Mudra. Chin Mudra is this where that is Angushta Tarjani Yoga, it is called as. When the Angushta and Tarjani are brought together in a circle, this particular mudra is called as a Chin Mudra or a Jnana Mudra, which indicates the crux of the teaching of Vedanta, which is nothing but Jiva Brahma Aikya. Brahma, Jiva, Aikya. Jiva Brahma Aikya is indicated by this mudra or this particular symbol. And all the Dakshinamurti representations pictorially or in stone or whatever have this Chin Mudra compulsorily. The right lower arm shows this Chin Mudra. The left lower arm shows a book or what you call as the written, whatever it is, pustaka. The pustaka is shown. The pustaka is shown. Pustaka represents all types of vidyas, paravidya and aparavidya. So the four arms are showing, but the upper two arms are showing two of the elements, two of the Pancha Mahabhutas. The lower arms, one is showing the Chin Mudra, which is the teaching of the Vedanta, which is going to be talked about by Dakshinamurti in the form of Jiva Ishvara Abheda, in the form of Chinmudra, and the left lower arm containing Pustaka, which stands for knowledge, all knowledge, Paravidya, that is Brahmavidya, as well as Aparavidya, Laukika Vidyas, all kinds of Vidyas. Any Vidya, Dakshinamurti is invoked as a guru of all the types of Vidyas as the Adiguru. Then, of course, we have seen that the right leg is actually dangling down, and we find an asura, apasmara asura is there under the feet, in the sense, Lord Dakshinamurti is keeping his right leg on this asura, apasmara asura, which indicates that Lord Dakshinamurti is in control of delusion and ajnanam. This apasmara asura represents delusion of a jiva, ajnanam of a jiva. And Dakshinamurti, the very abode of knowledge, the very source of this knowledge, is literally keeping this ignorance and moha or delusion, called asura, asura called delusion and ajnanam under the feet. And he's supposed to be wearing a charma, gaja charma or shardula charma, but sitting on the skin of a uh, tiger or a lion, which means that he's beyond himsa. It is one of the things of one of the symbolisms of a guru, the one who has gone beyond himsa, shows ahimsa as his main thing there, as what he values. So one important thing we have to understand in this pictorial representation of Dakshinamurti is that there are no ayudhas actually. There are no ayudhas. Here, the Lord is not going to protect the bhakta by destroying the enemies like in the other devas where ayudhas are there. Every deva devi we worship, they have ayudhas to protect the bhaktas. But here, Dakshinamurti is not carrying any ayudhas, but then Dakshinamurti is carrying only Chinmudra and he's carrying Jnanam. Jnanam is the only ayudham which can destroy ignorance and delusion. And that is what we are going to Lord Dakshinamurti for. We are not going to Dakshinamurti for physical protection. We are going to Lord Dakshinamurti and asking for that particular grace only because we want our ajnanam and our delusion to be destroyed. Then, of course, there are various other forms of Dakshinamurti with various other things in various other, the hands. Different pictorial representations. Any number of representations can be there. It is only for Upasana purpose. It doesn't matter. Like in the place of a Damaru, in one or two Veena is held, and in another representation, a flower is held. So like that, there are various kinds of representing this Dakshinamurti, in various forms. There is one Veena Dakshinamurti is there. Then most important is, most of these ashramas where there is a teaching tradition of Vedanta alive, the deity, though Dakshinamurti, is mainly invoked is the form of Dakshinamurti called as Medha Dakshinamurti. Medha Dakshinamurti means this Dakshinamurti sitting in yoga, like Yogeshwara Krishna. He was in that Jnana Yoga when he preached this. So here also, this Dakshinamurti he is in Yoga Patta or he is in that particular Jnana Yoga, he is in abiding in that Jnanam and giving this knowledge, which is called as, the representation is called as Medha Dakshinamurti. So, with this, I think we have come to the important representations of Dakshinamurti. We have covered what is the meaning of Dakshinamurti, what is this, what is this particular representation of Dakshinamurti, what is its symbolism, what is the importance of this Dakshinamurti Stotram itself, and how this Dakshinamurti Stotram can benefit a person. By mere chanting and japa, it can help a sadhaka in preparing his intellect as he is going through karma yoga, upasana yoga, jnana yoga, etc. At the same time, as a jnana yoga, this Dakshinamurti Stotram can form an excellent material to understand the teachings and the central core teachings of all the Upanishads. With this introduction, I know it was a very long introduction, but I felt it was necessary to talk about these things so that we don't straight away go into the Dakshinamurti Stotram. And before we go into the Dakshinamurti Stotram, we are all Upasakas also. At the same time, we are Jnana Yogis also. And we want the blessings of Lord Dakshinamurti in every way. We want the grace of Dakshinamurti as this knowledge also. At the same time, we want the grace and the blessings of Dakshinamurti to be able to get to this knowledge also. And therefore, there are first a few, about 6 verses, which are nothing but the verses which are called as the Dhyana Shlokas, which are not a part of the main Dakshinamurti Stotram, but still it is better we study this, and many of the facts that I have, or the information that I have given you, are already there here in these, some of the Dhyana Shlokas. So let us read the first Dhyana Shloka here. This is said to be taken from Acharya Sureshwaracharya's Manasollasa, that's what is said. So he says this Dhyanam, ॐ मौनव्याख्या प्रकटितपरब्रह्मतत्त्वं युवानं वर्षिष्ठान्ते वसदृषिगणैः आवृतं ब्रह्मनिष्ठैः आचार्येन्द्रं करकलितचिन्मुद्रमानन्दरूपम् स्वात्मा रामं मुदितवदनं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिमीडे Dakshinamurtim Ide, the last word. I worship or I prostrate before Lord Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurtim Ide, I worship. Who is this Dakshinamurti? The explanation of what is Dakshinamurti, the appearance of Dakshinamurti, the surroundings of Lord Dakshinamurti are being talked about here. So, who is this Dakshinamurti? He says, Om, as it starts with Om. This Dakshinamurti is a form of Lord Shiva who is present in the form of Brahma Vidya Pradayaka Guru, Adi Guru. And what does he do? Mauna Vyakhyana Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam. Parabrahma Tattva Prakatitam. Prakatitam means what? He is communicating. He is opening up and keeping it in front of those people who have come to listen to him. What is that? Parabrahma Tattvam. The one who is opening up and teaching the Parabrahma Tattvam. What is Param? Infinite. The infinite Brahma Tattvam. What is Brahman? That Tattvam which is the content of everything in this universe, that Brahma Tattvam, the infinite Brahma Tattvam as to what it is, the one who is Prakati Karoti, or the one who opens up this Parabrahma Tattvam, how Vyakhya, by Vyakhyanam, by a proper explanation. What kind of an explanation? Maunam Vyakhyanam. Maunam Vyakhyanam, Maunam Vyakhyanam. Now, what does this mean? That means silently, in silence, Dakshinamurti is conveying or communicating this Parabrahma Tattvam. This is what we understand by looking at this particular term. But we have to understand one thing. Can any Vyakhyanam or can any communication, especially the teaching of a particular subject, whatever it is, whether it is Brahma Jnanam or any other Laukika Jnanam, can it happen silently? The teacher may be able to communicate silently, but can the Shishya be capable of receiving this teaching? So, what is the meaning of Maunam Vyakhyanam? We have to understand very clearly. Maunam Vyakhyanam doesn't mean that Dakshinamurti Swami was sitting silently, the Shishyas were really sitting silently, and everything was understood. It's not like that. Maybe the teacher is able to communicate mentally, but then the Shishya should be able to grasp it. And whether the Shishyas have grasped it correctly or not also is not known. So, what is the meaning of Maunam Vyakhyanam? The meaning of Maunam Vyakhyanam is that this Brahma Tattvam is not objectifiable. This Atma Tattvam, Brahma Tattvam is not available for objectification. And therefore, it has to be explained by using what is called as a implied meaning or a Lakshana Vritti. Vachyartha of Brahman and Atma cannot be explained because Atma or Brahman is pure consciousness, which is not an object of my perception, and you cannot directly describe something which is not an object of my perception. What is this Brahma Tattvam? It is me, this consciousness. It is that consciousness which is there as the content of everything in this Jagat. It is the very subject consciousness. It cannot be described with any words. We call this Shabda Pravritti Niyamani. That means what? Any object can be described directly following certain rules called as Shabda Pravritti Niyamas. Let us not go into the details of what this is. But Brahman or Atma is not matter principle. It is pure consciousness which does not come or fall under the Shabda Pravritti Niyamas, and therefore no teacher, no Upanishad can directly tell us this is Brahman, this is Atma. But Atma or Brahman can be Lakshanataya explained. The Atma Brahma Aikyam can be Lakshanataya explained. We saw that in Viveka Chudamani, didn't we? When we studied Mahavakya Tattvamasi, how is Tattvamasi explained by the teacher? We saw three Lakshanas: Jahati Lakshana, Ajahati Lakshana, and Bhagatyaga Lakshana. That means what? Directly Brahman or Atma is not available for description because it doesn't fall under the conditions where words can be used to explain this Brahman. And therefore, Atma or Brahman has to be explained in an indirect way called as by using Lakshana Vritti. What are those three Lakshana Vrittis? I have in detail explained in Viveka Chudamani. And which Lakshana Vritti is used in the description of Brahman, that also has been told in detail. So I I request you to go back to that and see, then you will know what is this Lakshana Vritti. Therefore, Mauna Vyakhyanam does not mean that no speaking went there. It is not so. Mauna Vyakhyanam means Dakshinamurti, Guru Dakshinamurti, gave out or communicated this Atma Vidya or the Atma Brahma Aikyam, Jiva Brahma Aikyam via what is called as Lakshana Vritti. This communicating Brahma Tattvam with Lakshana Vritti is called as Maunam Vyakhyanam. So he says, Mauna Vyakhyana Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam. To whom? Yuvanam. This Lord Dakshinamurti, he is communicating, opening up this Brahma Tattva, which cannot be in normal words talked about, but Lakshanataya. To whom? Yuvanam. To the young, to Yuvanam. It is treating. He is Yuvanam Varshishtante Vasad Rishiganaihi. He is giving this knowledge to all the rishis, Varshishta Ante Vasat Rishiganaihi. This Yuva Guru or is young Guru, well, I'll tell you the implications of what this young Guru means. Parabrahma Tattvam, Varshishtante Vasad Rishiganaihi Brahmanishhtaihi Avrittaihi Brahmanishhtaihi. The Brahmanishtas, already mature rishis, fit for this knowledge, old in age, are sitting here. And who is the one who is teaching? It is the Yuva Dakshinamurti. Why Yuva? Nityah Shashvatah Puranaha. This Atma Tattvam, this Dakshinamurti, ever young, a young Guru is teaching this Brahma Tattvam Prakati Karoti, Varshishta, very, very exalted scholars, Antevasad Rishiganaihi Avrittaihi. He is surrounded by aged rishis. Of course, I think the time is getting present, but we'll do it in the next session also. So this is the Lord Dakshinamurti's picture. How is he sitting? Where is he sitting? How he is surrounded by these people, his shishas, all that we'll see in the next one or two dhyana shlokas. But most important thing in this to understand is the way of communication of Brahmajnanan by Dakshinamurti is by Maunam Vyakhyanam using the Chin Mudra. That means he is communicating this knowledge through this, what is called as the Lakshana Vritya Prakati Karoti. Lakshana Vritya Prakati Karoti. How does he do it? That we'll see from the next session. And I'm going to take Dakshinamurti Stotram in a very slow manner because this is something which we have to understand clearly. And to understand this clearly, we have to go back to a lot of things which we studied in Vivek Chudamani and Kathopanishad, etc. Of course, I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Though the verses can be explained from different points of view, I'll try to stick to one point of view which is very easily understandable. And we'll take it very, very slowly. Let us not hurry up. Even if it takes 5 or 6 sessions, it does not matter. Let us enjoy this great and deep, Praudha Prakarana Grantha of Dakshinamurti Stotram. ॐ नन्दन्तु साधका सर्वे विनश्यन्तु विदूषकाः अवस्थाशाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोऽस्तु गुरुः सदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.